Gwart Show is sponsored by Ellipsis Labs. Ellipsis Labs is building Atlas, the blockchain purpose-built for verifiable finance. You may know of Ellipsis Labs by their first product, Phoenix, a fully on-chain order book DEX that's done over $50 billion in unincentivized volume. This is one of the strongest teams I know in crypto. If you're interested in working for a mission-driven company, Ellipsis Labs is hiring engineers who are passionate about crypto and finance to work on Atlas. You can learn more and apply on Ellipsis Labs Twitter, @ellipsis_labs. Don't forget to check out Atlas too, @AtlasXYZ on Twitter. Hey guys, today we have on Jordi Alexander. This is a great start. Well, it's the first podcast I've recorded this year, and it's a good opportunity to get a market overview, maybe a little bit different than what I usually do, but Jordi's been around the space for a long time, typically has very pragmatic views, and I feel like he's somebody that we can ask questions about a lot of different subjects and get reasonable answers. So welcome, Jordi, and if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll try to be reasonable if I can. I guess, like, you know, my main focus is I'm the founder of Selini Capital, which is a buy-side firm that is involved with everything from HFT to discretionary trading to venture investing. So like just the whole spectrum.
What is the breakdown of Selini, like just rough estimate in terms of like venture versus liquid versus like maybe like arb trading? What would you say is like the general breakdown?
In terms of people, it's definitely 80% high frequency trading. So
Okay.
by far and away, like that's our bread and butter, you know, like that's the thing that's allowed everything else to happen. So that's the base. And I always say that we're a technology company. So all this other stuff that we do is sort of additional, but we're a tech company, and the CTO is the most important, you know, role, and the tech, it's all about the tech. That allows everything else to happen, because once you have, you know, super high volume everywhere, all the fees are good, all the relationships are good, you know, your execution is good, and that starts unlocking the next layer where you can do liquid, and then you can do mid frequency, and then you can do everything, right? So that's like 80% of the talent. Our venture book is very large. I think maybe people don't realize like how much of a book we do have. We are kind of over 100 deals now over like the last year or so. So we're probably one of the most active, and our check sizes have grown. So it's a pretty big book, but I am very opinionated on deals and what's good and what's not good in the space. So I only like trust a couple people in my team to make decisions, and I let them do it because they've kind of built trust with me. But I have quite a lot of say on the deals we do.
Yeah, but does Selini have outside capital, or are you guys like pure prop shop?
It's pure prop. You know, I considered raising a VC fund. I think like 2 years ago. I was like, hey, I have all the deal flow and I understand what to do. So do you guys want to give me money? And, you know, I asked around, and like some friends were like, yeah, of course, like here's a couple million. But like, you know, the big allocators were like, you don't know venture, like you've never done this before. Why would we give you money? So like, you know, I could have launched something with like, you know, 15, 20 million of sort of like capital of like strategics. In the end, just decided it wasn't worth it for that amount. We'll just do it off the book. And basically, I mentioned that the high frequencies is the bread and butter. I take some of the money that they make,
Yeah.
and then I just like put it into venture stuff. So that's kind of what happens. So it's all prop.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of degens make money like shitcoining, and then they do like angel deals, right? So you just do it at a larger scale, honestly. But it's a quite similar breakdown. I'm curious, like, okay, can you explain when you say HFT in crypto, what are you mainly talking about, right? Like, I obviously have been down the rabbit hole on MEV stuff. I assume that's a decent portion of what you guys do, but like, explain HFT so like explain HFT in the way that you describe, in like the way that you guys do it.
Well, I guess like in the broad sense, it is MEV. For people who really understand, like, you know, trading and microstructure, like you could say that what we do is MEV in essence. But, you know, MEV generally is used as a term for on-chain trading, and specifically not even just on-chain trading, but specifically the category of trading where, like there's something to immediately extract. So we are much more focused on short-term price prediction, and most of our volume by far is on centralized exchanges.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's some on decentralized exchanges, but it is usually CeFi DeFi, which is again like short-term price prediction based off of CeFi, moves and kind of arbitrage, and less, we're not really like trying to game the system so much and sandwich people. We don't do any of that stuff.
Got it. Yeah. Where do you trade mostly in terms of DeFi? Like, is it on Ethereum, L2s, Solana now, I assume, to some degree?
Yeah, L2s and Solana. The Ethereum L1 game is pretty big, obviously, but it's such a unique skill set to go after, and it's not that big, unfortunately. Like, I wouldn't say the numbers that I understand are not that big on, and I think there's kind of a duopoly there.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah,
they're definitely not what they used to be, for sure. It's like quite competitive now, and I think you need to be, from my understanding, obviously, like talk to some of the bigger builders, and you definitely need to be very, very good at one thing in order to kind of be able to float in other categories as well. So yeah, I can definitely understand why you guys have moved. Okay, let's get into some exciting stuff. You guys were one of the biggest. You did some of the most volume on Hyperliquid. When did you guys start? Did you guys start trading on Hyperliquid right at the beginning?
No, I'm a bit annoyed. I didn't know about it from the beginning. I actually, used to live on Twitter back then, and I saw Chameleon Jeff and his posts about microstructure. He was just sort of a tiny account that was posting about these like random HFT things, which I actually understood because I'm from the space, and I knew that he knew what he was talking about. And I had a call with him, very early on, discussing the stuff that he was planning and building, and it was a good call. And then we actually did stay in touch. We we saw them a ton in person, and my one gripe with him is like, I would always say like, hey, like, how's the volume? Like, should we start trading there? And he would always say like, we're too small for you guys. Like, I'll let you know when we're big enough for you big guys, but it's too small. So he kind of like discouraged us from like, obviously at some point, I would say around the beginning of last year, we were like, okay, enough. Like, it's big. Like, we got to go in, and we did in a big way.
And what were you primarily doing on Hyperliquid? Like, was this market making?
Yeah, it's the same stuff we do on, Bybit or, Choose Your Exchange.
In terms of the market making on Hyperliquid versus something like Bybit or some of these large sexes, right? Is it, or was it maybe much, much more lucrative in the sense that like the flow was generally a lot more, non-toxic or naive?
The flow is a bit retail-y, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You can see the funding rates are like often, higher. So that's a clear sign. But, the volume only spiked, I would say, like recently. So we have like a metric of like how much we're making per dollar volume. And certainly like that was a good number, although not the highest out of all our exchanges, but like it was like a good number. But the volume is kind of like, been picking up more lately. And so now it's sort of like a stronger and stronger venue. Of course, it gets more competitive as well, but generally the competitive landscape on Hyperliquid is a little bit softer. Yeah, that's fair to say. Are
all the big, well-known market makers, like I guess your competition in a sense, are they all on Hyperliquid at this point?
I don't think all of them. The truth is that the biggest guys probably don't touch any of this stuff for regulatory reasons. So the biggest guys, I think it's well known that Jump has generally been the largest trader on centralized exchanges. And my understanding is like they maybe they changed now, but like, for a very long time, they have not been doing anything on DEXs or, getting involved at all in that category. So at least like, that's one big guy who's not there. And then Tower, who's also very big from I used to work at myself. I think they also don't do that much on chain.
Really from the beginning, at least from what I I saw from like the retail side, I would obviously put myself in that category. I don't trade perps, but I have played around on Hyperliquid, right? And the sort of consensus opinion is that they really nailed like almost everything in terms of like UX and like onboarding. I mean, insofar as, bridging goes, it was like quite a seamless process. So from the retail side, like obviously it was extremely popular. And then they ran like a killer point system. They were never VC funded. Like there was all these like positive attributes, right? I'm curious from your side, like as a professional market maker, how good is Hyperliquid compared to something like Bybit or, some of these sexes, like at least, in terms of your perspective of the UX and like market making there, like how different is it, and how well did Hyperliquid do sort of replicating that environment?
I think, obviously it's probably getting better now, but like historically the amount of liquidity has not been the same with like a Bybit or Binance. Like it's still like much bigger. So for a very large whale, I think we saw High Stakes Capital kind of tweeting recently, is like, I like Hyperliquid, it's cool, but I can't trade there because, my size is size. And like, there's not enough size. I think Jeff nailed it because he is a high frequency trader, and we haven't seen someone who is a very successful HFT make an exchange. It's like, important to understand all these like tiny details that can affect UX. So he did a couple things that were smart. I think other people like were kind of hesitant to do. I could name several. One was, last look on passive. So like it kind of like lets you place a lot of orders and then you can cancel them. It makes the liquidity look good, and it sort of like, maybe promotes like an active book, because you can always decide if you want to get the order. Obviously, the Hyperliquid Vault was a very big hit where like some people don't want to trade, but they still want to farm. And you can kind of just get the activity, get them as users, as community, and they can just put some money in this vault, which is just making money for you. But yeah, I mean, nothing's perfect. We saw in the early days, like some of the liquidations were insane. I think a lot of people were like just hating Hyperliquid when a small move would just like cause some insane liquidations. I think they kind of iterated through that because they have the technical understanding how to improve that. I think it's just, depends on what oracles you use and like how you decide to absorb some of those like moves. Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say, like it's obviously been a very strong product and a very strong launch in a space that is quite competitive.
Thanks for listening to The Gwart Show on the Blockspace Podcast Network. Subscribe to our newsletter at blockspace.media to get the show directly to your inbox. Show links, transcripts, and Bitcoin articles twice per week. Stay ahead of the conversation by visiting blockspace.media.
Okay, so I want to ask you about that then. Going forward, right? Like the airdrop has now been, I mean, at least, I think some people would say it's like one of the best airdrops ever. Obviously been one of the best this year. I know that Jeff had a tendency to mess around with the points for the big guys like yourself. But that makes sense, right? Especially when he's kind of trying to attract a retail user base that is sticky and like feels that sense of community. So now they're trying to go from, well, I guess they're in the process of going from 4 validators to 16 validators. What is your like just overarching view of Hyperliquid going forward, right? Like it's been, we got the airdrop, like how do you view this playing out? Is this like going to be able to compete, in the long run?
I mean, obviously they won the DEX kind of mind share right now. They're the only one with users. I think they have about, 15 to 20,000 daily users, which is probably like a 10x over like the next group of DYDX, etc. I think there's obviously huge risk. I was telling DYDX guys when they moved from V3 to V4, I kind of warned them the UX was going to get really bad because you go from having a centralized, matching engine that is very performant, that is very fair, FIFO, everyone's just like there, co-located, none of this like, MEV type of stuff. It's just like a very clean exchange. And you go from that and you decentralize it, for whatever reason, because you want to say that you're decentralized. And it's actually like, first of all, like very hard to show passive liquidity. Like it just becomes very complicated to know what the state of the book is at any time. And where are you sending, and people are sending to different places, and like, are you bribing, and like it gets a mess. And I think we saw that with the V4. Unfortunately, like the liquidity dried up on DYDX4 because of these like things I'm mentioning, like this microstructure stuff. And it's unavoidable that doing things properly, as in like on-chain, decentralized, directly affects like the quality of the UX. Now, these are like, Jeff's, everyone knows how good they are, and so like they might be able to mitigate some of those effects, but definitely not all of them. So on the other hand, like they can start to build like an ecosystem and maybe get value accrual from the composability of not just being a perp DEX, but having all the other DeFi Legos and everything else. So it's probably worth it. But yeah, they'll have to be quite careful on like not ruining the base product, I think.
They're obviously like launching this full-blown L1 now. I'm just like, I sit here and I look at this from my perspective, right? And I understand there's like regulatory constraints and the essence of decentralizing over time. But I do wonder, I mean, why was, okay, I sort of know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it, and I just want to hear like your perspective on this. Why was it okay to run a perp DEX with 4 validators for a year and a half and mainly get away with it? I'm not saying there's obviously I don't think this should be criminal, right? But maybe there's some jurisdictions that would find this criminal in some capacity. Why was it okay to do it then? And the necessity now to decentralize, to me, it's like, why wouldn't you just keep it with 4 validators? There's product market fit. The demand is there. Just do it as long as you can. Like, why wouldn't you just try that?
I think it's a matter of ambition. And, this team has shown that they want to like win finance, like not sort of like win perp DEX. And so, there's a good thing going. We got a good thing going. Why, baby, why are you ruining the good thing we got going on? These guys are trying to, they want to date Jessica Alba. So like, that's why they're, breaking up with like the high school girl. So like, they might, I mean, they're very talented. So I think that's the reason. And, it's not enough for them just to like win the perp DEX. And so that they're taking this like next risk.
Well, and I mean, I'm not like, it's one of those things where they've crushed it thus far, right? So who am I to tell them that going this L1 route with like the whole money Legos and decentralizing to a more diverse set of validators is the wrong move? Like, they've crushed it. So I'm usually of the opinion that like, if somebody's crushed it, I trust their instinct. But I was just like wondering, I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's obvious demand, right? Like, why are you decentralizing? No, centralize it more.
Yeah. And there's obvious, you will automatically like you lose some of the UX as you decentralize. But holistically, like if they can mitigate it enough, then it'll still be quite net positive. So let's see. We're still very active there and enjoy trading there, and volumes are good and flow is good. So hopefully that continues.
Jeff has crushed it. Like, mad respect to him, and he found product market fit that it. Right, we'll see. Like, I mean, volumes have mainly sustained since the airdrop, so that's generally encouraging, right? Like, you see a massive fall off usually with a lot of these like token farms. So that right there is some evidence, and I'm optimistic. I'm just like I always question a little bit like some of the long run moats or whatever. In terms of the hype token, another example like that's crushed it, at least insofar as token drops go. Like, what do you view as the long-term like value of the hype token? Is this something that you think about?
I mean, clearly, like they're doing buybacks very aggressively. They did it from day one, and they continue to plow it. And again, it kind of goes to what I'm saying, that the ambition is not to just make $100 million and that's it. They're just like plowing it in. They want to like keep this thing going. So that's the value of the token. It's just that it's that they're going to keep supporting it. Obviously, at some economic number, it doesn't make sense because the revenue they have, even if it's nine figures is going to be like a very small amount compared to the float. So it'll happen gradually if it grows. But obviously, like the bigger prize is if they manage to break out of not being a perp DEX and being a like a Solana. And to do that, I think Jeff knows very well that they need to get into these other games, like these meme coin games, and maybe like get into like these successful launches. I think there's tokens that have been paying like up to 500K to get their ticker.
Yeah, I've seen this.
So I think there's a few launching soon. We've already had a few, and if it gets a reputation that you can launch there instead of Binance, and that's like a real alternative, then maybe like more projects do that. Creates like a moat. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're quite motivated to support some of these launches, but it's kind of tricky to do these things properly. So we'll see.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. You guys recently had Vitalik on Steady Lads, your podcast. Everybody check out Jordi's podcast, Steady Lads. I was on, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. We were talking about Ethereum then. You guys have been talking about Ethereum for a while now. You have Justin, who's been sort of like the one, holdout. I think that you and Taiki have generally been a bit more critical or willing to, vocalize some of this criticism. Anyhow, all this culminated with you guys finally getting Vitalik on the podcast. How do you feel about the sentiment around Ethereum? And then also, do you feel like there's been any type of vibe shift? Like, did you get anything from Vitalik that, led you to believe anything changing?
I mean, just the fact that he came on, I thought was very positive. It shows that there's the ivory towers that are surrounding him and blocking all the, the real people, let's call it, like us plebs around. There's some ways to get through. And that was a sign, and that was very good. We're hearing that, they might change the EF a little bit, maybe like get some new leadership. There's obviously like talk on Twitter right now around, who might be good to do that. So there could be a little bit of a vibe shift. I think I'm quite positive on ETH. I'm not extremely bullish. I'm like, cautiously bullish. I think being extremely bullish, after what we've gone through as ETH holders for the last couple of years, you got to be a little bit delusional to be extremely bullish. But I am kind of optimistic, and I'm not negative on ETH right now. I still think that it can do well. That said, I just saw a chart with XRP ETH, and apparently all the gains of being the smart guy and holding ETH instead of XRP since 2019, those are all gone. The XRP guy has caught up fully now. So I don't know how that make me. It doesn't make me. Yeah, I have mixed feelings. Well, not mixed feelings. What the fuck?
Yeah, but do you think that the EF is the problem? I mean, like, do you think a change in leadership at the EF does anything? Like, a lot of people are. I've obviously followed this just in the past few days or so. A lot of rumblings about the EF, and I guess this has gone back a little bit, but only recently have we seen, I guess, proposed new people to be put in charge. Like, does this even matter at this juncture?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of what the EF has been doing, and it does seem to be like this very, like, I've called it like a European Union type of thing. Yeah. Like, you look at the US versus the EU, like since the last 25 years, and they started in the same place, and just this bureaucracy and this like philosophical emphasis instead of being practical and capitalist and just getting shit done, I think has shown. But you can't completely blame them. They come from a deeply philosophical background, and that's a lot of the strength is the neutrality that they try to create. Like there's this innovator's dilemma that was kind of inevitable for the first big layer one smart contract chain, and they're facing it, which is basically the same thing we see with Bitcoin. Like, you can't take big risks when you're the layer that secures all the value and like all the TVLs there. You have to be very risk averse and like move slowly. And unfortunately, like, it just kind of seems like it's seeped into the culture. Yeah, I mean, the bullish cases remain. We could get a staking ETF, and that can be a good Wall Street product. We're seeing this AI meta, which, the neutrality of Ethereum is more suited for, I would say, than other chains. It has underperformed in essence, like, it's sort of due for a rebalancing. There's reasons to be cautiously optimistic.
Do you think that Solana flips Ethereum anytime soon?
No, I think, look, like I have been kind of like wrong about Solana. I didn't expect it to break all-time highs again. And it did, even for like a day. Obviously, like it sort of retraced immediately, like 30%, like in the days after. But there seems to be a rich, young Western user base. That is like just Solana. Like that's how they come on. They don't know who I am. They don't know who Kobe is. They don't know, they don't know, anything, right? Like, but what they know is like, this is a place I can shitcoin and, like it's fun. And there's a lot of these guys, and some of them have made money, and there's a lot of money in that space. So I think Solana will do well. Now with Trump, it's a US coin apparently. So he's going to be supporting. Yeah. So that's another good thing going for it versus the non-US Ethereum barbarian coin.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I would be very surprised if Sol flips ETH. And my rationale is just that we know that nothing trades off fundamentals to begin with. Obviously, XRP flipping Solana recently is indication that none of the fundamentals of the market really matter. So when people start citing increased usage and how much Solana is gaining on ETH, on all these metrics, which are valid, it doesn't necessarily equate to it flipping Ethereum by any means to me. It's like, we're all agreeing that this stuff doesn't trade on fundamentals. Why are we citing fundamentals as a reason for it to flip Ethereum, right? So that's my, and also I think people, I think it takes a tremendous amount of volume, right? To move. And obviously as market cap goes up, it takes an increasing amount. So yeah, I'm pretty skeptical of the notion myself. You mentioned AI. Okay, like this is good. Current event stuff. I've been following this. What is your take on like the AI agents and stuff?
I think you have to zoom out and look a year down and see that there's a chance that this is the killer use case of crypto. Like this is it. It's just going to be like agents using it. Like this is going to be, we had digital gold, we had stable coins, like, AI agents using crypto is such a logical kind of continuation. I don't know which crypto it's going to be that they're going to be wanting to transact in. Is it USDC, something non-censorable? Is it going to be like neutral money like ETH? Is eventually like maybe we get some AI money? Like I think that's very likely that at some point we just get like a, some currency that is designed, purpose built for agents to use. So I think it's massive. I am following AI very closely on the Web2 side now because I kind of have to. I think it's imperative to have your eyes open to what's happening. And things are moving fast. I think 2025 and 2026 are going to be 2 years that go down in history as just like a lot of progress that is, creating tools that are really like reshaping how people are functioning. And I deeply believe in my heart that crypto has a role to play. The technology fits very nicely. The people that I talk to who are building the frontier models tell me that crypto is fitting nicely. So the space will grow, like the cap of like crypto AI, and especially like things around agents and, personal assistants and all this category will grow. Now, that said, I agree with all the people saying like, the stuff now is just a bunch of LLMs.
Yeah.
And like, it's sort of, most of it is, but I think there's stuff that is getting built that is going to be more than just, a wrapper for Claude.
Okay. So, I mean, I agree. There's like, obviously, man, I hate even saying this, but there's like clearly an intersection of AI and crypto, right? That's going to be huge. I don't doubt that, even as skeptical as I am on a lot of things like that seems very apparent. My problem is that I don't understand what agent means in this context, because I mean, like, you guys do HFT. I would assume that the vast majority of your trading are bots, right? 75% of the volume on NASDAQ and NYSE are bots, right? We've had algorithmic bots trading these markets for 20, 30 years now, right? In bulk. I can't separate in my mind like what agents are versus just bots. Like, is it just because it has a name and a token attached to it, and we've kind of like anthropomorphized it, and now it's a little person that that makes it an agent versus just like code, right? That you guys run on your servers. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, really.
I've been thinking about the same questions as you just mentioned, and so maybe I'm a little bit further ahead along, having thought about exactly like the same, like, very legitimate questions. Because the truth is that HFT firms have been doing AI for over a decade now. Like, this is what we do. It's machine learning. You can call it whatever you want. It's AI. These models, in essence, are little agents that are just specializing on that specific trading pair, that are being trained on that pair. So those are very valid points. I think the anthropomorphizing part, apart from the token, which is usually not necessary, but is separate because agents don't need a token. But the anthropomorphizing of an agent, I've actually found it to be an abstraction that is useful and actually makes sense. And like, actually, when you take it away, you lose something. So my default kind of initial like impression and like instinct was that the fact that we're like putting little names and we can see them and whatever is just pointless, because they're just code and it's the same as other code. But I do think that there is something you miss if you don't encapsulate it in an anthropomorphized form, which is reflective of the reality of these things. And if you look at the research of AI that's going on, since the very beginning, when sort of DeepMind was pushing, a lot of it is based on human intelligence and recreating how humans think and their thought processes and like, how we make intelligent decisions. And it's not an abstraction that is non-native. Like, these things are sort of built in a way that they're trained on humans, and having their own encapsulated form and personality, and like, I'm the agent for this thing, and this is what I'm doing. I think is a useful abstraction. And token aside, I think this is going to be what creates societies of agents, and also like having a lot of agents, because just like you call your buddy Larry, who's like the trading agent, and you call the other one, they're all going to be specialized in different things, and they're going to be trained on different things, and fine-tuned maybe on yourself, on your own thing. So it'll be like a representative. And so I do think it's a very useful abstraction, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I do agree with that part. I think that the problem now, and I guess people kind of can see this, right? Like, all the agent tokens are meme coins, right? I mean, is that generally true? Like, I don't think people say that they're not. Actually, one thing I would add is that I actually quite appreciate that this cycle people aren't really asking questions about like why AI 16Z needs a token. It just like kind of does, it's just something on the internet, so it needs a token. There's not like a whole lot of like thought between the value it's creating and like the tokenization of that. But I mean, are all the tokens from your perspective right now pure meme coins in essence?
No, they're not. There's a spectrum of meme coins, but yeah, you're right. No one's like questioning it. It's hard to question it after like, we had like 3 months of Murad basically like saying like,
exactly,
we're going to get taken over by these like, completely vacuous tokens. Then the AI stuff came, and it's like, well, it's the same thing, but like there's something there. It's talking to me. It's tweeting at me or whatever. It is interesting. The most popular agent coin is this AI XBT, which like people like, again, like there's value in the anthropomorphizing part that resonates with people and kind of does generate value instead of just a platform. It's a platform. It's code. This is the Python one. This is the Rust one. Like it seems to resonate more that you can see this thing with a hoodie and it's, spitting some garbage, unfortunately. But
yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like Udi tweeted yesterday that, and I think he's spot on, like tricking AI into shilling some narrative for you is going to be like being able to prompt, and that doesn't necessarily mean like it on, like ChatGPT, UI or whatever, but just like in the context of your tweets or something, being able to prompt these things to shill whatever narrative it is that you want shilled is going to be like an incredible skill. And you already see this, right? With like the AI XBT thing. It just says words. Like there's sometimes it just it will, like, for example, I saw one the other day that it just like said there's only a single trustless Bitcoin bridge. There aren't really like true trustless Bitcoin bridge, not in this sense, but it had just picked this up from like some random, Bitcoin L2 project. It just says stuff. So it's kind of like hard to wrap my mind around it right now.
I mean, the truth is like most people can't tell the difference. And my Twitter feed, if you look at the people that I follow, is generally try to like keep a high signal to noise ratio. I don't think that's true for most people. And like, like for the type of influencers and KOLs that most people follow, having this kind of sort of jungled mess of like LLM output from AIXPT, it's the same stuff they're used to seeing anyway. And it's just like a bit more exciting because it's, it's an AI saying it. And I've unfollowed AIXPT. Like I tried to follow it, but it was just like, it's just garbage in, garbage out. I try to like really keep signal top of mind. And unfortunately, there's less and less accounts. I mean, GCR hasn't been tweeting. My ex-co-host Thicky, another fantastic trader, I don't think he's been tweeting much. Now we saw that Pigeon is kind of getting doxxed, and he's probably going to stop tweeting.
Side note, what, sorry, I don't know. Like I know you're Singapore based, and so I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, what did you think of that? So anyway, the context, just for people listening, the context was that somebody tweeted, and it seems probably likely true on the grounds that there hasn't been any pushback, that there was an account known as Pigeon, Eugene something, that was, talking about his liquid positions and his trading positions. And then it's actually the alt account of this well-known VC who has seed rounds and, some of these liquid positions. I mean, honestly, like side note, not that it's relevant, but like I didn't find this, of the egregious things that happen in crypto, like of the massive charade that 99% of the space is, I didn't find this to be the most objectionable. I do understand why people would find this to be objectionable. What was your like thought? And again, if you don't want to say if you're personal friends or whatever, but I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on that.
I mean, I think the main thing is what you said, that the space generally, like there's like this ridiculous charade going on. And what we've seen time and time again is, from all the main characters and the Suzus and the Ansems and sort of everything that comes and goes, is that there's like a need from the collective to have a shelling point for like who to listen to, and just like, tell me what to buy. I don't know what to buy. And then like just 10,000 people. And then, the one Hasaka tweet tells people to buy this thing. And then like everybody buys it, and sort of like the self-fulfilling prophecy. And then whoever gets out, before the door closes, the door is shutting, does well and sort of creates this game. And it's a game. It's just like roulette. It's just like whatever else. It's the game of like, he has the shelling point. He's the main character. And so there's value to being the main character, because you literally create price action out of nothing. Yeah. Like you just say like, buy this, and then 100,000 people buy it, and then it moves up. And so like you can just print money. And we've seen like, some anonymous accounts share like impressive P&Ls. I think that some of them are definitely LARPs. Like legit. I think some of them are LARPs and some are legit. I think we know like some of the legit ones, some of them are even docs, like, high stakes cap. So some of these guys, like they're just ballers. I mean, their size is size, and they'll go for it. I think this like Aguila Trades guy, who's like, I think like number one on the leaderboards, seems to be very sharp. And it's good to have some of these people tweeting, like makes crypto Twitter a little bit more useful. But there is an incentive. Like if I had time, I have no alts. I have no time to have an alt, but it would make sense for me to. I'm not going to talk about trading positions in my like doxed account. Like there's so many reasons I wouldn't. But if I'm just like shitcoining and then like buying some random stuff, why not tweet it in some account and try to build it up? It's like a different game. It's a game to play. So I understand why people are doing it, and probably more people are doing it. And yeah, it's not the most egregious thing, but I would say that it's good to like not cross lines as well. So balance to you, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look great, but of the scams I've seen run, kind of like this is par for the course, or probably lesser evil. But okay, the last thing we have to talk about is since we're just getting an overall market view here, DeSci. Have you followed this at all, and do you have any thoughts?
A little bit. I think obviously Bio was the big launchpad project that got the sort of game, on that next level. It seems to be something that CZ took a personal interest in, and of course, this kind of ties in with the Vitalik type of, let's do some real world-changing philanthropy or whatever kind of research stuff to change the world. So it fits in with like these big guys, and I think the people building in the category are well-meaning and pretty smart. So something might come out of it. I've seen like Tarun just like be very vocally negative. I'm sure he has some valid points. I don't think it's as strong a meta as AI. I'll say that.
Well, I would generally agree. I haven't dug too much in, but just because I was trying to think of all the narratives we have to cover with somebody who follows the market pretty closely, had to get your perspective. All right. Well, Jordi, thanks so much for coming on. Thought it was great. Very level-headed, pragmatic. I've always respected you for,
Am I too level-headed? Like, do I always just
No. I'm just saying, like, well, I mean, from my perspective, I don't follow the trading aspect as much. Like I get nerd sniped into little mechanism design shit, and then I'll just go down a rabbit hole for far too long. And I oftentimes am like sort of unaware of what's even going on, right? Like, and I'll see this stuff pop up, and then I'm not really well apprised on it. And it seems like you have a pretty good overview of the market at all times. And then obviously you run a very big trading shop. So like I always want to talk to people who actually use these systems, right? Like I'm oftentimes reading builders talking about, how they're going to shave off, a tiny bit of latency on something. And I want to talk to people who actually use it. And that's why I was really fascinated with your perspective on Hyperliquid, is because like I don't get to talk to people who are market makers on Hyperliquid, So no, you're not too balanced. You're doing a great job.
Okay. Appreciate it. I mean, I do occasionally like get very excited about something that I see, and I do occasionally step out of my like very balanced comfort zone and have a strong view on stuff, whether it's positive or negative. But yeah, thanks for having me on. If anybody wants to check out Steady Lads, if they haven't already, we do it weekly, and have a good amount of fun. And I'm almost always
your pasta of the week, so I feel like I'm the go-to pasta for the show.
Like I said, I follow the high signal accounts on Twitter. So
all right, well, thanks, Jordi. Appreciate it.
Cool, appreciate it. See you, Gwart. Bye.